Welcome to Surreal Thoughtz Podcast. I'm your host, Nas. This is the podcast where we talk about everything surreal whilst keeping it so real. The podcast that's dedicated to helping you heal. Hello and welcome back to Surreal Thoughtz Podcast. I'm your host, Nas, and today's topic will be about learning to forgive our parents. So grab some ice cream, a blanket, and a shoulder to cry on, because it's about to be a roller coaster ride. Why is it important to forgive our parents? It's very important because the older you get, the more realize how messed up you are, and you start to wonder what is wrong with you, and you start to compare yourself. But do you know who taught you to compare yourself? Your own parent. If you're one of the few lucky ones who had amazing, perfect parents growing up, parents who were emotionally present, parents who knew how to meet your needs, how to listen to you, how to offer emotional support, then this podcast is not for you. The reason why it's so difficult for us to forgive our parents, because they were supposed to be the ones to love us. They were supposed to be the ones to guide us in the world and show us how we should be treated. They set the example, the standard for us. And so when you grow up not having that emotional compass, or just in general the guidance, you end up feeling lost, because the person that was supposed to guide you, that was supposed to hold your hand along your journey of growing up, they failed to do that. And so you're left to fend for yourself, a child who's lacking the necessary skills and knowledge to be able to survive in a dog world, in a cruel world. And on top of that, you still grow up not having that support that you needed. And so you end up attracting the same kind of people, because that's what you start to believe and think love is. That's what you think love represents. Now, this is just talking about the parents who neglected you, who maybe were not as emotionally present, but it doesn't mean they were necessarily bad and abusive. So imagine if we're talking about the abusive kind. You end up growing up attracting abusive love, because you start to correlate the abuse you had with love. You start to believe and think that that's what love is. And if it's not that, then you don't want it. And then on a subconscious level, you just start to reject anything that's not abusive. And so it becomes harder for you to accept love, because at the end of the day, we accept the love we think we deserve. Shout out to The Perks of Being a Wallflower. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So how can we change that? The way we can change it is by first acknowledging the pain. We need to stop ignoring it and using things and people to suppress the pain. If we understand why our parents done what they done, and perhaps maybe the way we could frame the situation, we could see that it's not because we're the problem. It's not because we're unlovable or we're not enough. Maybe it's because they're hurting. And usually when people are hurting themselves, they would end up hurting other people because they don't know how to deal with the pain. With the older generation, they didn't have the information they need to make better decisions and to make better judgment. Our generation, the younger generation, we grew up with mental health awareness. We grew up with the tools that we have around us right now that could help us access information instantly. But our parents didn't have that. They simply modeled the way that their parents were towards them. They just reenacted, they just imitated it, because that's the only information they had. Of course, I'm not saying that we should completely forget the traumas that they have caused us. But at the same time, if we dwell on the past for too long, we could never move forward. And if we never move forward, then we are happy with being a victim for the rest of our lives. And that's taken away from us actually being happy, from us actually maybe meeting people in the future who could genuinely love us and accept us for who we are, unconditionally. Now, we have two options. We could either, one, continue the same behavior that our parents have shown us into our life, even when we have kids, when we grow up and have kids, continue doing the same thing, replaying the same issues. That's generational trauma. And we must be the ones who see that and stop it. We must put a stop to it, because we need to realize that it will affect future generations, which could include our own children. Now, would we want them to experience the same pain that we've experienced? I don't think so. So the first option is to continue the same cycle. Let it repeat. Do not break the generational curse. Then the second option is you see something, you recognize that there's something wrong, and you actively change it. And that's first with starting the change within yourself, because you could only change others around you and influence them to improve if only you start to do that towards yourself. Otherwise, no one would actually listen to you. So what I'm trying to say here is that maybe if you change the way you approach this issue, so perhaps by trying to actually communicate using a different technique, a different way, where you try and put yourself in your parents' place and understand the pain that they are feeling, which has led to them treating you like that, which has led to them not fully fulfilling their role as a parent in the way that they should have. At the end of the day, they're just human like you and me, and none of us are perfect. Instead, maybe we should think about how strong our parents have been this whole time. Maybe some of you could relate to this, where like our parents, for example, they're immigrants. They may not have been able to even speak English, yet they tried their best and hardest to always make sure that we are fed, to always make sure we have a roof on top of our heads. They done the best thing that they could do for us based on the situation they were put in. Because they maybe grew up in a household where love was not modeled to them. They did not see their mom being loving and affectionate. Instead, they grew up on tough love. And so, can you blame them that this is the way they think? They think this is how parenting should look like. This is how the mother was with them. This is how the father was with them, if they were even lucky to have a father around. So the way to approach how to forgive your parent, it starts with try and put yourself in their place. Try to understand why they treated you like that. And could you really blame them if they were suffering with their own mental health and they didn't have anyone around them to validate how they were feeling? There was no emotional intelligence for them growing up at all. I do not think so. And of course, I'm not speaking for every parent out there because each parent is different. I'm speaking from what I know, from what I have seen and experienced. If we show compassion towards our parents and understand that they done their best despite the circumstance they were in, maybe we could have some compassion. Maybe we could be understanding and loving. And instead, feel for them. Imagine how they're feeling and they're still trying to remain strong for you, even though they needed that themselves from their own parent. And they never got that. And for some of them, they will never receive that ever. But they are still trying to be a better parent for you. And so I guess we could appreciate that, the fact that they are trying. Maybe they know they're not perfect, but they don't know what to do about it. They don't know how to be better. Maybe you could show them in a way that you know they would understand, in a way that wouldn't threaten their ego or their role in your life. I think the reason why it's so hard for us to accept what our parents done to us and for the ways they've made us feel perhaps rejected and like we're not enough is because maybe we have this core belief that just because they're your family, they should accept you for who you are all the time. Sometimes it could be your own family that could be your biggest enemy. So how could we navigate around that? What can we do to change that need for their approval, for their acceptance, for their validation? We must understand that although the trauma was not our fault, it is now our responsibility to heal from it. We must come to terms with and become aware of the traumas that we got from neglect in our childhood. By understanding why you think a certain way and why your self-image is negative, you must remember, when was the first moment you felt like you were not enough? Who was around you? What was said? And you note it all down. You must journal. You need to write all of these thoughts down. That's how you start to work through it. Because I'll tell you this now, your parent will not do it for you. Sometimes they may not even acknowledge the pain that they have caused you. Sometimes they might say they don't even remember doing that. But of course you remember because you felt the pain. It hurt you. And the reason why it's also your responsibility is because even if you come to your parent with all these problems and you tell them, they will still find a way to put the blame on you for the ways you've reacted to their abuse. And so there's no point we'll just be going around in circles, right? So you need to do it for yourself. Why you need to forgive your parent is so you can let go of the past, so you can finally make space for the future, and especially your present. We just need to remember that our parents are probably still in pain, and they may not even be aware of it, or they're ignoring it. They don't understand mental health that much. And so just see their inner child. See the child inside them that is still hurting, that still feels unloved, yet they're still trying their best to give you love. We just need to accept that even though we're related to our parents, it doesn't mean that they'll always understand you. So don't always expect that. You just need to feel like you're enough for yourself, to the point where you wouldn't need the validation from even your own parents anymore. You don't need the approval. You can give yourself that love because you are enough. And the love that you could give yourself is more than enough, because only you could understand yourself, no one else. 100%, of course, you can meet people that could kind of understand you, but no one's ever going to understand you 100%. That's unrealistic, right? So just try to understand your parents' story. What happened in their life that made them who they are today? What pain are they going through? How are they feeling? And just remember that they didn't have any bad intention. Their intention was never to really hurt you. It's just that you got hurt in the process of them not knowing how to deal with their own pain, of them not knowing how to be a parent, because they never had that great parent for them. And yet they still tried their best. They may not be perfect, but they tried. And that's what matters, right? So now, knowing all of this, what could you do? You could take all of this information in and decide to do better. And decide to do your research, to always improve as a person, so that you don't end up hurting others around you accidentally just because your pain is spilling out everywhere. And see that you are breaking the cycle. You are creating a change that could change the future generation. The generational curse could end with you. There's a reason why you're experiencing this, and there's a reason why you've been exposed to all this information. You have all this knowledge around you to help you change things, to be a better parent in the future, and to even just be a better human being, so you could be a good friend, a good partner, everything. It all starts with the foundation, which is created for us when we are young, when we are still a child. And if it was a broken foundation, then what do you expect to happen? You're only bound to have broken relationship, and a broken relationship with yourself, that's going to be the hardest. So you could change it, because who wants to live a miserable life, right? And we all need love. Love is what helps us to grow into a capable human being who believes in themselves and doesn't let the world break them down so easily. At the end of it all, what does it all come down to? It's love. And what happens when people don't have love? They hurt others because they are hurting. Love heals everything. Love is the solution. And that love must start first with yourself in order to be able to love others and to care for them. Because how could you know what love is if you don't show that even towards yourself? Don't be so hard on yourself. You've got this. See your inner child and see how it's been crying and begging for your attention, crying for your help. It's time for you to become aware of what's holding you back and what wounds you're still carrying with you that are so heavy in your heart that you're not letting go. Become aware so you can finally release yourself from the chains that are holding you down. You deserve to be happy, and you deserve to feel loved, because everyone deserves love. It's been your host, Nas. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you could go away today and think about the things that I've mentioned, because I really want you to heal. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. You could always interact with me either on my blog, Thoughts, or you could always leave a comment on my TikTok page. Everything's on my blog. Just check it out and we could always interact. And maybe you could ask me questions or what you would like me to talk about in the next episode. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye for now.